All right, we are live. Dennis, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'd like to first start out by saying thank you to everybody that's joined today. We understand that everyone's schedules are busy, so please know that we greatly appreciate your time, taking time out of your day-to-day to join us and learn more about our Cyber Jumpstart portal. Also want to take a moment to thank Kevin and the team at Arctic Wolf for their partnership, which allows Shepherd Insurance to bring this fantastic resource to our clients. After roughly a year in partnership, I'm excited to share that Shepherd Insurance recently elevated their partnership status with Arctic Wolf. This will not only bring forth additional educational opportunities such as this to provide continuous and up-to-date information surrounding cybersecurity to our clients, but also eliminates the annual fee that was previously attached to the vulnerability scanner tool within the Cyber Jumpstart portal. The cost for that previously was $250 annually, and if you were to source it out in the general marketplace, it's roughly $1,000 a year cost. So we are very proud to now be able to offer this at no cost. As I'm sure everyone is aware, the cyber threat landscape is ever changing at a rapid pace. With Arctic Wolf being one of the largest cybersecurity incident response firms in the industry, their knowledge and experience is unmatched. Throughout our time today, Kevin will be diving into details surrounding the three components of the Cyber Jumpstart portal. These includes the Incident Response Plan Builder, the Vulnerability Threat Scanner, and the Security Project Guide. However, before beginning, I want to provide some statistics related to the current state of the cyber threat landscape. Per the Council of Insurance Agents and Brokers Q1 Quarterly Bulletin, 42% of respondents reported an increase in claims as opposed to only 23% in Q4 2023. This is an increase of 19%. With the increase in claims, rates have remained relatively stable, with 0.4% average rate increase being reported through Q1, a low of negative 1.5% and a high of 34.3%. Keep in mind that the rate stabilization thus far is primarily related to additional capacity entering the cyber insurance space. However, if claim trends continue, as referenced above, one can only expect a hardening of the cyber market in the foreseeable future. In addition, CoveWares recently reported that an average ransom payment was $381,980 in Q1 of 24. Keep in mind, this figure doesn't account for the loss of business income for being shut down and or the recreation and replacement of hardware, software, and data that may have been lost as a result of the ransom incident. What's scarier is that 90% of those that experienced a breach had antivirus and endpoint detection and response in place. As a result, you may start to see requirements of managed detection and response, as well as other security measures that can be implemented throughout the utilization of the Security Project Guide within the Jumpstart portal. Hopefully after today, these statistics no longer present themselves as a doom and gloom, but rather a sense of opportunity to better secure your organization through the enrollment and implementation of the Cyber Jumpstart portal. Please note that upon completion of today's webinar, we will work to provide a copy of all materials presented, including the recording and slide deck. With that being said, Kevin, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Dennis. That was a fantastic intro. Some really great information there in regards to, kind of the cyber insurance market and cyber landscape, which definitely echoes what we're seeing and we'll kind of get to in a couple of slides here, which is essentially, even though we've seen kind of a flattening in the insurance market, cyber risk continues to be a major driver for businesses. You still see a lot of attacks out in the media. We're still seeing it from an incident response and cyber insurance claims perspective. So things continue to move at a rapid pace. And I think Dennis pointed out greatly that, much of the current state of the cyber insurance market is due to, as he mentioned, increasing capacity. And very much of it's also due to kind of the cyber insurance industry pushing controls for its clients. So as more clients have, now started to get cybersecurity controls plus the increasing capacity, that's why we've kind of seen the state where we are. And yeah, I think it's a good point to make that may not always be the case. And, if things do start to change, you definitely want to make sure you have controls in place and that your insurance team understands those controls and can advocate on your behalf with those upcoming renewals, or if you're looking to get cyber insurance for the first time. So all really great points there. Today, we're going to be diving into the Cyber Jumpstart portal and what specifically that is. We'll go through each of those tools that Dennis talked about with the incident response plan, the threat scanner, and the security control guides. And again, those are brought to you now for free. There is, you get all of those. You don't have to put in any information in regards to payment. All of those are for free now, thanks to Shepherd and the partnership that we have with them. So a little introduction into myself. My name is Kevin Tattich. I am on the incident response team / insurance alliance team here at Arctic Wolf. Arctic Wolf as a whole has kind of two sides to it. We do both pre-breach mitigation services as well as incident response. So we kind of see both sides of the spectrum. We have a really great incident response team that does a large volume of incidents per year. So we often see or often have a good kind of cadence into what threat actors are doing, what threat actors are prevalent in the area. And a lot of that intel is driving what we're doing here with the Cyber Jumpstart portal. So what you'll see as we go through that is really what we've come up with to combat some of the things that we're seeing within the cyber incident space as far as frequency and severity of claims. So let's get into our presentation here. Quick overview of Arctic Wolf as a whole. We are now, these numbers are actually a little bit outdated even now. We're now over 5,000 global customers. We have over 800 plus security engineers on staff. So as far as security engineer and actual talent within the cybersecurity field, we have one of the largest presence available. From an incident response perspective, again, we're usually up over 750 cases per year. We're on 30 plus different carrier panels that is pre-approved to provide incident response. So if you get into an incident response scenario, you can reach out to Arctic Wolf and know that if you do have cyber insurance, there's a very high likelihood that your insurance carrier has already pre-approved us to respond on your behalf. And if they haven't already pre-approved us, there's a very high likelihood that we've worked with them in the past and can get approval pretty quickly. We have 4 main products here at Arctic Wolf. That is the managed detection response. As Dennis kind of mentioned, in the first kind of ramp up in security controls, we've seen endpoint detection response, firewall, antivirus kind of be the items that were requested, and many organizations have begun to implement those. So the kind of next phase of that we've seen is that really that managed detection and response phase, and that means kind of the ability as from a security operational perspective to monitor all of those different security controls that are actually implanted within the network. So the ability to kind of have visibility into all of those items and then act in a response-oriented manner with those security controls. Along with that, we have our managed risk product that is full service vulnerability management as a service. Again, that is a concierge style delivery, as are all of our products that comes with those security engineer expertise. So that is going to be your full service vulnerability management. Then we have our security awareness, which is training, security awareness videos for your employees. And then, of course, our incident response team, which does digital forensics, decryption, data mining, threat actor negotiation, kind of a full service incident response shop. So let's get into what we've seen from Arctic Wolf's perspective in the cybersecurity or cyber insurance industry so far. What we're seeing is, much as Dennis said, attacks are still continuing to happen at a rapid pace. It reached an all-time high in 20 and 21, but it's still continuing to happen at again increased pace, and it's increasing because the dollar cost of these claims are also going up, as Dennis kind of did allude there to. So we've seen an average increase of cyber claim frequencies at 562% since 2012. So I mean that's a absolutely ridiculous increase, and it's continuing to happen for smaller organizations. Uh, as I mentioned, when companies are hit, they're paying more. So you can see it's definitely increased here up into 2022, and that has kind of been holding steady at that rate, and also continuing to increase for some smaller organizations. So when we look at those facts and we see what's happening in the cybersecurity space, what we see are these kind of trends. We're seeing higher claim frequency. So more companies are having more claims because they're having more cyber incidents. And with that, the severity of those claims are increasing as well. So one of the things that we see now often are, it used to just be that a company may hold your network hostage and say, hey, if you pay this ransom, we'll give you the decryption to your network and you can go on about continuing business. While that's not great and it's a terrible thing to do, it almost seemed easier back then, because nowadays what you're seeing is not only are we holding your network hostage and we're demanding upwards of $1 million ransoms on this, but also we've exfiltrated a bunch of your personal data and maybe data on customers, and you have a double extortion situation where we're also going to make you pay to not release your information. Oh, trust us, we deleted it if you do pay us. So the severity of these events is increasing, given that these threat actors keep finding ways to continue to hit pain points for these clients. And so you just want to do everything you can to not be in one of those scenarios. We've even seen nowadays where threat actors have hit a company, and if they're publicly traded, they'll report them to the SEC and say, hey, I breached this company, and they haven't reported the breach yet. So that's another really interesting kind of scenario where threat actors are continuing to look for pain points. That leads to a more demanding insurability process. So insurance carriers are requiring more controls, and I know the Shepherd team has seen that. And so again, they've made these investments and these partnerships into the cyber insurance space to make sure that their clients are protected from that perspective. They're getting the best renewal outcomes that they can, given that it's a more demanding insurability process from a controls perspective and from a visibility perspective. So with that in mind, we've tried to tackle the frequency of claims, the severity of claims, and the demanding insurability process. And that's where this Cyber Jumpstart tool comes in that I'm going to demo for you here in just a second. And so that is good news. We're on top of this. We're looking out for it. And now it's free for you to kind of prevent some of these things. So the big sticking point here with this is, if you use this threat scanner that is available to you as the client and is putting in your hands for you to be able to utilize, you can potentially prevent 74% of all the IR cases that we see come through Arctic Wolf on a yearly basis. So just a really great sticking point there. This threat scanner scans for 96 vulnerabilities. There are over 200,000 known vulnerabilities out there. Why are we only scanning for 96? Well, many of them just aren't necessarily used. There is an awful lot of vulnerabilities that, organizations, cyber insurance companies can try to hang their hats on and say, oh, we need to make sure you have none of these at all. This scanner is a little more focused in that we want it to have the most impact for your organization. So we say, we're going to look for these 96 vulnerabilities, because this group of 96 vulnerabilities causes 74%, almost 3/4 of every incident we see is because the organization had one of those vulnerabilities or critical weaknesses. And so, we basically took that information and we created a tool and we gave it to you for free to say, hey, just put in your information here, run this scan. It scans automatically once a week, and you can do on-demand scans on your own. And by doing this and making sure that okay, if we do have one of these vulnerabilities, let's make sure that we get it remediated. Um, Again, it's just provides a really positive impact on your ability to prevent almost a quarter of all the incidents that we see. So that really goes to, again, the frequency of incidents, the frequency of cyber claims. So you do that, you're going to reduce the frequency of those cyber claims. And then second, we say, okay, well, that leaves, maybe a quarter of the incident types that we see. Well, in that case, we provided you an incredibly sophisticated incident response planner. So where we walk you through the incident response process and what we need to know in order to respond to an incident. Um, what we see here on this graph, and pay less attention to the exact dollar amount of the numbers and more to the fact that what we see is a decrease in the severity of claims if you have an IR team and an IR plan in place. You're going to be able to respond to events faster. You're going to be able to start to remediate quicker when you have all of these things. And we're going to walk through a little bit why that is once we dig into the actual tool here. I'm going to take a second and look at some questions here. We're getting some questions in the chat box. One of them, whether you recommend a particular program or training for HIPAA compliance, information management. I think that one we might have to answer offline. I'm not going to be able to dig into that right away, but we're certainly available to support after. So we'll provide you a way to get in touch, and we can chat about that. Next one, do your clients' companies need to be a minimum size in order to take them on as a customer? No, they don't. We've got solutions for everyone. So we do have things that we can provide for customers of any size. We really work across the spectrum, just kind of depending on what they want, the sophistication, we can kind of figure out which solution would be best. So moving on here, again, that's just going back to that point, to address the frequency, severity, and insurability process, this is your solution here with the Cyber Jumpstart portal, brought to you by Shepherd. So what we're going to look at, and I'm about to pull up a demo here. So we're going to look at this IR planner. We're going to reduce the severity of events and business interruption loss, support your cyber risk management processes. We're going to look at this Cyber Jumpstart scanner, reduce the incident frequency, and then we're going to look into these Cyber Jumpstart guides, which is kind of a knowledge repository for you. This again, just kind of going through, the IR plan is a great place to establish clarity. It's built by our incident response team. It's basically everything that you need during a scoping call, so that all your information is in one place. It's readily available. It's accessible. It allows you to assemble your team together to know which key stakeholders that you have. It's stored safely. So by keeping it on this platform and not your own network, it's a lot safer in the event that you do get into an incident. And it goes beyond just the key stakeholders. There's ways to look at how incidents escalate, how to communicate, and really recover from a cyber incident. So the threat scanner, really goes to the fact that we can prioritize the approach. It's not going to be too much all at once. Again, it's going to be very focused to allow you to identify what you have, get you to where you can start to think about remediating these threats, and then it can connect you to experts directly through the portal. The Jumpstart guides, again, as I call it, a knowledge repository. It's just information on what are the controls that are out there, how can they help us. Let me start to think about looking at some of these, and you can really just on your own time. That's what I really like about this. Just on your own time, just read information about some of the controls that are available. You don't have to do it in in a scenario where you're getting sold the products right away. It's just if you want to learn about these controls and how they can go and fit into your organization, you can just kind of browse through it. It's really great in that aspect. So without further ado, we're going to get into our demo with me sharing my screen here. All right, so at this point, looks like my screen's up and everyone can see this. So this is the Cyber Jumpstart portal. This is what, when you click on our and Shepard's registration link, which everyone will be provided after this, you'll log in. As the first person from your organization to log in, you will be the admin user. From that point, you can then add other users by typing in their email address. It will then send them an email to log into your specific Cyber Jumpstart portal. And then once you're in, you'll see this. There will be 3 of the modules that we discussed: the planner, the threat scanner, the Jumpstart guides. You can see up here, you've got Shepherd Insurance, so that you're in the portal presented by Shepherd Insurance. When you first get in, you are going to have this that says, this is a dev environment, so I think it will say something like, just upgrade rather than trial expired, because you don't have to worry about any trials. It's all free, available to you. So it is just going to be readily available. So when you get in and you want to start setting up the threat scan first, you can click on this and click open. And it, again, will automatically be available. And the first thing it will do, it will prompt you to edit your locations. And this is where your organization can put in your domains, your public-facing domains and IP addresses so that they can be scanned. Once you add these in, they are then added, and you can add different IP addresses. If you click on this, you can see which formats the IP addresses are associated with. So like you can just type in singular IPs. You can type in a range of IPs so that it's a little easier. You don't have to type in each individual one. And then just some more information about what IPs you can put in here. But typically, yes, this probably would be a portion for your IT director or whoever is setting up your organization's IT network, that they would have knowledge of your IPs associated with the network and the domains, of course, so that they can be scanned. So once you have those set up and in place, there's nothing else you need to do. At that point, you can hit this red or this orange X up here, and those IPs will automatically be in the locations, and you really won't have to do anything else. It'll start scanning automatically on its own, so you'll get a report in your inbox once a week that will allow you to link to that report to see what's in it. But you can also manually run scans 10 times a day. So if you put it in for the first time and you immediately want to see, you click here, run scan, it'll run the scan and show you what it's found. And so again, apologies, this is a dev environment. I'm going to show you kind of what it looks like to get a report. So I'm going to have to jump over to another instance of this. Let's see, I think right here works. Let me pull into another one of these and I'll get you kind of what the report looks like quickly. Here it is. So when you do run a report, this is kind of what it'll link to. At the moment, I don't have any vulnerabilities that are showing up on the report. But if you do have a vulnerability, it will come across right here up at the top. It'll name the actual vulnerability that is found, or vulnerabilities that is found. You can kind of get information on what we test for. This all is done by a proprietary scanner that we have. So we have bought, or actually built and bought the specific scanners that we utilize in this tool. And then again, if you do have a threat, it will show that threat here. It'll give you information about that threat specifically. It'll tell you where it's exploited in the wild. So if it's used in a particular manner, it'll tell you that, and then any trends associated with that threat. So it'll say, this is where we're seeing this, again, from our incident response team, this is where we're seeing this being utilized. Here's why you should worry about that. And then if you did want to, get in touch with our team around, how can we begin to remediate that, you can reach out to us for that. It'll go directly to our CJS helpline, and we can get you support as far as that goes. If you click down here, it's going to show you all of the vulnerabilities and critical weaknesses that it is scanning for. So here's all 96. So you can run through and look at those ahead of time. For example, this one's pretty famous, so to speak. This Move It was a really utilized vulnerability that allows for remote code execution. So someone sitting elsewhere can get into your system through the Move It vulnerability and execute code remotely to perform attacks. So you definitely don't want to have that. So this just goes through all the different ones that we're scanning for, so you can see it up front. You can download your threat report at any time here, and any threat that does have will show up, of course, across this big thing, so you'll know about it right away. That is the threat scanner. So once you have that up and running, you're really good to go. If you what's really nice about it is, a lot of insurance companies will provide you a threat report. They can do scans like this, but it's on a one-time basis when you submit, to apply for cyber insurance. What's really beneficial here is, again, it's putting the tools in your hands. It's allowing you to, if you do add IPs associated with your network, if you add domains, to update those locations, and it's running consistently so that if anything does come up, you'll know about it right away, rather than, maybe getting a one-time report back that shows a bunch of different things. So when we say it helps with insurability, it's because, again, like if you're going up towards a renewal, or you're going to apply for cyber insurance for the first time, you come here, you run the threat scanner, and you can see on your own, do I have any of these critical vulnerabilities that an insurance company is going to say, oh, this is an issue if we apply for cyber insurance. So, always better to not have them see that if you do have any of them. So run this before your renewal. I know Shepherd's doing a lot of great things around kind of working this into their process as far as onboarding clients, and working it into a renewal process, which I think is fantastic. That's a huge value add for clients, because, again, it's going to put them in a great position from a cyber insurance renewal, where you're going to get a much more favorable outcome because they've really thought about all of these things. So that's the threat scanner. Very useful tool. Then the next thing that you'd probably want to do as you get in here is to look at and set up your IR plan. So you open that up and you hit Get Started, and you jump into your incident response plan. And I'm going to go into one that's a little more filled out, so just bear with me. Actually, so you open up, and then this is what you will see. So there's a few things to note about this. One, these circles across the top up here, those are going to be all of the different areas, columns, whatever you want to call it, as far as information to be filled in. So you can move across these up top with the response team, the external providers, the network information, how do you escalate an incident, and then your critical business functions. Each one of these allows you to add different information. So if I move across these, it moves into different areas to add information. Within each of these, you're going to be able to fill out these different tabs of information. And so these are pre-filled with the information that we see most often needed in an incident response plan. So for example, within your incident response team, this is going to be your internal incident response team. So these are all going to be people within your organization that are going to be stakeholders in the event of an incident response scenario. So we've pre-filled these because these are typically what we see. It may not be the case for every organization. You may have multiple technical leaders, maybe you have multiple financial leaders. You can add additional leaders down here. When you click on one, this little flyer pops out, and you can fill in their information here so that it's readily available. The point of filling out all of this information ahead of time and making it readily available is so that if you do get into an incident response scenario, again, our incident responders know this is all of the things that they need to perform an incident response, to get into the things like, who do I contact given certain situations? Who potentially could I reach out to know who's privy to certain information? So I've got that legal person on my team. If I have any technical questions that come up regarding your networks, who's your technical leader that I can reach out to? Who's going to do those overall questions as far as executive response? That's there as well. If you get into an incident response and you don't have all of those things and all of the rest of the things that are involved in this incident response planner, it may take you, in some cases, hours, especially when we get into, you'll see like when we get into the network information, it's a lot of very specific, detailed information that the incident responders require to start doing digital forensics. If you do not have all of this information readily available, it can take hours, sometimes days to gather all of it. And if you have an active threat moving around in your network, that is a big hindrance to the response time. Those hours in the beginning of an incident response are critical, especially if you're getting to pushing it off digital forensics a day because you need to gather all of this information. That's where you get into that difference of, I've contained this quickly, I've gotten a response, and my costs are associated with, the digital forensics team, potentially some business income, but not as much. There might be less data exfiltration costs. So that's where you're getting into the difference between a case that became very severe and a case that was not quite as severe, because you've been able to respond quicker and get to those things quicker. So you've got your internal response team together. And then, the next thing we want to know is, okay, who's all the external stakeholders? Who's your external response team? And these are the primary buckets or stakeholders that we find are most prevalent in an incident response scenario. So one being the incident response vendor. That's the firm that's going to be doing the digital forensics. We, of course, have implemented ourselves here because we certainly hope that you use us and think of us as your IR partner. If you do have an IR partner or an IR vendor that you already use and you really like them, you can add them as an additional provider here. and add any contact information associated with them. I promise they will love this IR plan as well. So, it goes beyond just our IR. Then you might have an MSP provider who kind of set up your networks. Maybe they provided your cloud applications, your cloud storage. Maybe they did your MFA, um, you know, VPN, different things around that. If you have that partner that you have, you can add them there. They're likely going to be needed in a scenario. Then you got your privacy law firm, external that's usually involved in an incident response. And then, of course, your cyber insurance information, which will already be branded to Shepherd. So this will be likely pre-filled in as Shepherd. What you can do here is open up this information. And so maybe I want to put my Shepherd AE or, particularly a person involved in cyber. But if you want to have your Shepherd AE, maybe you have your producer or your consultant along there, you can add that information in here. These are all fake people that we use for testing. So if you do have a contact that's already in there, you can add them there, or you can hit create a new contact and then come in here and add that contact information of that person. And now we know, okay, here's their Shepherd contact that's going to be involved. Let's make sure we're utilizing our Shepherd contact, keeping them up to date so that if we need to get into a claims talk, they can provide the services that they do regarding that. The other thing about this is you can add your insurance carrier in here. So who's your insurance carrier? What's the policy number? You can add things for the process of submitting a claim, stuff like that. So those are all of your external providers. Then we get into kind of the more technical information, and this is really where you're going to save yourself some time in gathering information that is very useful to responding to an incident, especially from a digital forensics perspective. So again, these are all pre-filled: your primary business location, data center locations, cloud presence, remote work access. If you have any virtual desktop infrastructure, like these are all the things that the incident responders need to know the way that I put it best is if you own a warehouse and your warehouse is on fire and maybe you have a fire in the back of the warehouse, but the firefighters show up on the outside and they see a bunch of smoke burrowing out of everywhere. They're going to need to know what's inside that warehouse and where it's all situated so that they can start to gather how they're going to respond. Maybe they need to go inside and move throughout the facility to fight the fire. Much like that situation where it would be good to have everything positioned within your warehouse, you want to have all of your information regarding your networks so that they can know how to move about the system. And what I mean by that is, what's your primary business location? How many workstations are at the location? Do you have any physical servers at that location? Do you have any virtual servers attributed to that location? If you do, what's the firewall? What firewall do you have running? Potentially what's the model? And then any IP information associated with that. So that they go in and they want to do, potentially gather log information, just look at activity on those. They can start to tap into those and they can say, okay, I know this is the firewall that's there. Let me make sure I'm able to get through that so I can do what I need to do. Same thing for data center locations, all the information about those. Then you get into kind of like your cloud presence. Do you have AWS? Do you have Azure? Do you have Google Cloud? That's very useful because we have people in our teams that are potentially experts in each one of these. So we might have an AWS expert. We might have a Google Cloud expert. And so if you indicate, oh, I'm on AWS, I run these applications, and here's the IP information associated with those. Now the incident response team, they look at your plan, they see that, and they say, okay, let's call our AWS person. Let's get them in here on standby just to make sure that, once we go dig into AWS, we might need that expertise on hand. Again, just all go into saving time, which saves dollars. Same thing for remote work access. If you have VPN users, do the users have MFA? That's useful to know. One of the things that they'll look for is, if you do have uh, movement on your network, are they using a VPN? Is it potentially that, this user showing as being someone within the area because they've used a VPN? They might use a VPN tunnel. So that way they can look at that and say, okay, this VPN that this user has used to access the network isn't one that we know is on the network. So if you come in here and you put, here's our VPN provider, here's the IP address associated with it, here's the URL, and they see one of those that isn't this VPN provider, well, they're going to go, oh, that's fishy. Let me look into that more. Similar thing with DNS and hostname information and virtual desktop infrastructure, all very useful for our team to know. Again, just going to being able to provide a really, really quick response. So once you have all your network information, and then you're going to get into, okay, how am I escalating the incident? Do I have employee escalation in place? Do I have security awareness training so that the incident responders know, the employees know what they're looking for? They might find other things, other movement within the network. As the digital forensics are ongoing, maybe not all of your network's down. Maybe there are employees that are still trying to conduct work, and all of a sudden one of them sees something really weird on their computer that makes them go, oh, that's interesting. I should probably escalate this. That gets escalated, ideally to one of the people that's on your incident response team. The incident response team member goes, oh, wow, we need to tell the incident responders about this. They immediately call the incident responders, and the incident responders are like, okay, let me go look at that person's endpoint and see what kind of activity. Oh, I see that, there's been lateral movement to their endpoint. We need to quarantine that. And now we've quarantined it without, even more lateral movement happening. So that's useful. I mean, what incident responders are looking for is how do we stop lateral movement if we suspect that someone's in the network. And so response communication is going to be pretty crucial. How are you accessing it how are you going to talk to each other if all of your networks are down? And then endpoint and server monitoring is a huge part of incident response. So if you already have an endpoint detection that you're using, we need to be able to monitor that. So you need to let us know who's the endpoint tool that you're using. Is it Bitdefender? Is it Cisco? Is it CrowdStrike? We have the access or the ability to tap into all of those, and we will do that at the beginning of an incident response scenario. Once we do that, now we have endpoint detection set up on all of your networks, and the incident responders can see immediately and use their tools to see virtual movement within the network, and again can quarantine things faster, stop the attack, do all of the things that they need to do. Which is why, that's why incident escalation is important. So now we've done all of those things, and we're like, okay, we know our teams, we know our network information, we've got procedures in place to stop any escalation. Now let's look at, okay, maybe we know we stopped the attack, and maybe something's been taken down. All right, let's start to get things back up and running. We don't need to potentially have everything kicked out. If we have those endpoint monitoring, those escalations in place, we might be able to start trying to get your systems back online. Before we really, we don't need to move throughout the process quite specifically in one manner. So we can kind of do some things to help get you up and running faster. And so this last function is to help with that. You've got your critical systems that allows you to provide information about that. Maybe you have something for invoicing. You can toggle through these to say, okay, my distribution ordering is the most important. I need that back online first. Or maybe my sensor production is most important. I need that back online first. So I can move these around to tell the incident responders, hey, if you do get into a scenario where you can get some of these back up and running, this is what I want first. This is the second most important. Here's the third most important. And that is each component of our incident response plan, thoughtfully built out by our incident responders. I'm going to walk through a couple more things and I'll get to a couple questions. So once you've filled out all of this information, you're going to be able to hit finish and you can download a PDF report. You can open and edit the plan at any time or download the PDF copy. What I will say is do not keep this on your network. Don't download this and store it on your network somewhere. The benefit of this is being able to access it with it not being on your network. You can print it out, or if you do have someone that's somewhere that's very secure, then maybe you can keep it on your network, but we highly wouldn't recommend it. Print it out, have it somewhere physical, maybe have it somewhere off network, or access it through here. Once you download it, it does become available in your files. So I can go to this Files tab on the side, click this, download it. Gives you a little warning. It says you need to have multi-factor authentication, which you do when you sign up. The controls no longer apply when you access it. So again, don't keep it somewhere that's not safe. And if you do, we're not responsible because we can't control it anymore. But this is what it'll look like when you download that. So got your table of contents. Here's all the different sections you added. Here's the response teams. Everything nice and neat on it. All of your information right there. Then you can go back to your dashboard, having done both of those. And if my dashboard would load, here it is. You can open up your Jumpstart guides. Again, this is a knowledge repository. It's a really great place to find information about these controls in a very friendly manner. Maybe you want to look at, what's log retention and how is that valuable to me? Come in here. Here's what log retention is. Here's learning materials on log retention, why it's critical, why it's important for your business, what happens to data logs during a cyber attack, things like that. Phishing simulations, you've got your incident response plan. Once you complete your incident response plan, this will say done. You can look at vulnerability scanning, which is part of the threat scan. If you want to know, okay, I'd be interested in getting 24/7 monitoring. What is that? How is it beneficial to my team? Here's some information about why it's beneficial. And then you can get in touch with us if you want to know more. 24/7 monitoring is something that we do. Not all of these are something that we do, but we can likely help. So if you want to reach out to us and get more information, we're happy to do that. Had a couple of questions. If all of our data and other providers, or all of our data is handled with other providers that host and maintain data, how does that help us against ransom attacks if we're not hosting the data? Yeah, it's an interesting question. It doesn't always help you. I mean, it's a great scenario to talk about what recently happened with Snowflake, where a bunch of customers' data on Snowflake was infiltrated, like Ticketmaster. If you Google Ticketmaster right now and cyber attack, you can read all about it. Or Live Nation. What happened there was They stored all of their data on a cloud provider. They didn't set up MFA. It got infiltrated because they didn't have security on the network. So it seems like in a lot of these cases, the cloud providers are basically saying, you still are the one that needs to set up security to not have this access, and are taking more of a we're not responsible approach. Like, for example, if we allowed you to log into the Cyber Jumpstart portal and didn't make you uh, utilize MFA, which we do, like you can't log into this and not set up MFA, then theoretically, if someone was able to get in by, through your particular login because MFA wasn't enabled, then technically they could see that information. And, while it would be, theoretically, it's kind of like, who is that on? Well, we say, we're gonna take the onus on us. You have to enable MFA. That's going to keep anyone else from getting your information that's in here. So just because your information is hosted on other web-based programs, that does not necessarily mean they're completely secure. That is why we have within the incident response plan information to provide about your cloud-based host providers. We can. There's another question about if you're a small company, it's not an IT manager, do you help us set up the IR plan and threat scanner? We can provide some support. I don't know if we're not going to be able to find the information for you. So that's really up to you to find the IP information. If you have any technical difficulties, we can definitely help with that, but we're really not going to be able to find any of that information for you. So it would mostly be up to you to fill out the information. But again, there's a full support team associated with this. You can always reach out to the CJS. There's a contact button down here, if you can see this on the bottom left corner. This contact button will get you in direct contact with us. We're happy to answer any questions. If we're able to help, then we're absolutely going to do that. But as far as kind of getting information, if you follow the incident response plan, it kind of walks you through what information is needed. Again, you're going to have the knowledge within your organization to know if you have it and where to find it. But of course, we're happy to support. A couple more things. So again, like I mentioned, going back earlier, if you're the first person to log into this, you are then the admin user. There is a users tab here on the left, right here highlighted. If you click into this users tab as the first one to sign up, do not have someone else try to sign up their login as the same organization, because it will identify that as that same organization trying to log up or set up an account twice. What you do is you set up an account once for your organization, and once you do that, you can then add users. So you can put their name, you can put their email in here, and you can provide which permission you want them to have. So if you want someone who can just read this, you can do read only. If you want someone who can change it, you can read write. If you want them to have admin privileges, you can add that as well. Once you do that, it'll send them an email. As you can see here, it says pending invites. It'll send them an email to log into your specific account. So that is how you're going to add users to your specific Cyber Jumpstart portal. You can come down to the bottom here and access these different files. Your IR planners here, your threat scan report can be here. There is a ransomware runbook, which can also provide some really useful information as far as what happens in a ransomware attack. This just walks through kind of the different stages of a ransomware attack and who from your internal team and who from your external team is involved in those stages. So all of that information here. And then it walks through the different response phases and provides information about each one of those. So just more useful features from the portal. And that is it. That's everything that's in the Cyber Jumpstart portal. Again, it's yours to own. Feel free to go in and play around. And we can support as needed. So I'm going to stop sharing now, and we'll provide a bit of information about your next steps. So next steps, one, have that designated representative that's going to be your admin user sign up, invite other users. You can make those other users admins as well. Just have that one individual that starts it. Once they're ready, they can register using this link. Shepherd will have this link. It will be sent to all of you afterwards. You will have to access multi-factor. Wow. You will have to set up multi-factor authentication once you log in. Again, we're making sure that you have the security to put all of this information in there. It is, of course, valuable information. Then you can invite your teammates using that user tab. And then you're good to go. You can start your journey. So that is all of the information I'm going to provide today. We'll get to the questions here. Jaffer, I hope I'm saying that right. I will take down that email. We had a question again about how to contact or connect for the HIPAA training. I'll reach out to you directly, probably with the in coordination with the Shepherd team, and we'll make sure we get you taken care of from that perspective. Other than that, if you have any questions, now is a great time to put them in the question and answer Q&A box. I'll be sure to try to answer that. If you have any additional questions or anything comes up, again, you can reach out by hitting the contact button in the bottom left. Your Shepherd team is there to support. We're working in coordination with them. So, I believe you can reach out to them. If they can't answer it directly, they can get in touch with us. So there's definitely different ways that we can support. Phil just asked if we would share the deck. That is correct. You will get this deck and the recording sent out to you afterwards. If you do, once we get the deck, it'll have that link in there, or you can get it from Shepherd directly. Our marketing team just said we'll send the Shepherd team. So we're going to send the recording to the Shepherd team. We're going to send them the slides. We're going to send them the registration link. And then we'll allow them to send that all out to you. We'll, of course, let them know everyone that was in this as well. Other than that, I don't see any more questions coming up. Looks like we're right about at time. So if nothing else comes up, we'll go ahead and stop the recording. Again, thank you all so much for joining us today. Thank you for taking the time. I hope you learned something and are going to utilize this resource that Shepherd is providing you. And please do not hesitate to reach out if you do have any questions. So thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.